you are doing good and safe and happy at your places. This is with respect to course code EDU 225, and title of the course is Psychology of Learning and Development. Myself is Dr. Deepa Sikand Kauts, Head Department of Education, Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar, Punjab. I'll be talking about theoretical basis of learning and its implications. In this interaction, I'll be talking about various theories of learning, operant conditioning theory, given by Skinner, Hull systematic behavior theory, Bandura's social learning theory, Constructivism Approach, that is constructivist theory, and Humanistic Approach to learning or humanistic theories of learning. Operant conditioning theory was given by B.F. Skinner. Skinner, who was an American psychologist and from Harvard University. He formulated this theory. In 1938, he coined the term operant conditioning, which refers to a kind of learning process where a response is made more probable or more frequent by reinforcement. It helps in learning the operant behavior, the behavior that is not necessarily associated with known stimulus. The mechanism of operant conditioning has got various concepts involved. First is shaping, second chaining, then discrimination and cueing, and generalization. Shaping means the behavior is shaped. The organism's behavior is shaped, his responses are shaped through various reinforcers, which are given step by step. The behavior which is required is reinforced, and the behavior which is not required is not reinforced. Hence, the learner tries to pick up all those behaviors which are reinforced, and the shaping of the behavior takes place. Then, chaining, a process in which required behavior or task is broken down into small steps, and every step is leading to next step. Discrimination and cueing, it is a process wherein we use signals or clues to determine when behavior is likely to be reinforced and punished. Generalization, it refers to the ability of an organism dealing with perception of the response to similar stimuli. Skinner conducted an experiment in the laboratory and found three types of responses or operants that can follow a behavior. You can see the Skinner box and how the rat is put in a box and how various his responses are studied. He has briefed those responses in the form of different operants. Neutral operants, reinforcers operants, punishers operants. Neutral operants are the responses from the environment that neither increase or decrease the probability of a behavior being repeated. Those operants which are neither strengthening a behavior nor they are weakening the behavior. So those operants are known as neutral operants or neutral reinforcers. Then reinforces operants, the responses which are reinforced, which are made, the responses which are repeated due to the presence or absence of some reward, that is reinforcers operants. Reinforcer operants can be both positive or negative. We call them positive reinforcers or negative reinforcers. The positive reinforcers are the one which strengthen the behavior or the actions. The negative reinforcers are the one which weaken the behaviors or the action. Then punisher operants. The punishers are those responses, punishers are those operants which hamper the happening of the responses. The responses are suppressed. The behaviors are suppressed. But it does not weaken the behavior. It does not weaken the actions. As soon as the punisher is taken away, the behavior again comes up. The implications of Skinner's theory of learning is it is more for behavior modification. The expected behavior is rewarded again and again, reinforced again and again, and hence the total behavior modification takes place with the help of positive or negative reinforcers. Then external approach to motivation, the verbal praise, positive facial expressions of the teacher, a feeling of success, high scores, opportunities, all these help the behaviors to strengthen and to happen again and again. There is also the importance of schedules, that we should reinforce the behaviors whenever they happen to occur. It should not be like that every 2 minutes we have to give the reinforcer whether behavior takes place or not. We have to be very clear that the behavior which we want to shape and want to have, it should be reinforced properly. Then we should try to avoid punishment, because punishment is that reinforcer, that operant, which simply suppresses the behavior of the individual, and the moment the fear of the punishment is over, is removed, the behavior reoccurs. Hence we should avoid punishment. Theory of operant conditioning has shown that learning proceeds most effectively if, see, this is very important. Learning proceeds most effectively if learning material is so designed that it produces fewer chances for failure and more opportunities for success. Meaning, thereby, the learning happens successfully when the the shaping of the behavior is positively reinforced, and the more it is positively reinforced, the more it strengthens itself. The learner is given rapid feedback concerning the accuracy of the learner. The feedback is very important. The moment learner comes to know whether his learning is effective, whether his learning is taking place in the right direction, he becomes more motivated. So, feedback is very important. Learner is able to learn at his own pace. Because every behavior which is leading to the requisite behavior modification is reinforced. Hence learner is learning at his own pace. If he speedily does the behavior, he is speedily reinforced. If he slowly does the behavior, he is slowly reinforced. So pacing or the speed is his own. The principles originating from operant conditioning have revolutionized the teaching learning programs. And we know that we have been using computer assisted instructions, computer managed instructions on the principles of learning given by Skinner. Second theory is Hull's systematic behavior theory. It was given by American psychologist Clark Leonard Hull. Hull theory was first presented in 1943 in his book Principles of Behavior, and was extended in 1952 through his last book, A Behavior System. It consists of 17 postulates and 133 theorems. Basic concepts of Hull's theory. He introduced the concept of intervening variables between S and R. When S, that is stimulus, impinges on the organism, it results in a sensory neural reaction, that is R, that generates a motor neural reaction, which leads to an overt response. Reaction potential, the probability of repetition of a learned response at any given moment. So he's given one equation to find out the reaction potential. That is ER is equal to HR multiplied by G multiplied by V multiplied by K, whereas HR represents the habit strength. That is how often the response was rewarded in a particular situation. Habit strength. Then D is drive, how energy was pulling the learner to learn a particular habit. V is the stimulus intensity, and K is the incentive. Hull's theory revolves around one word, that is need. Sometimes we do call it a need-based theory, learning theory. Physiological need creates an aroused tension state, that is a drive, that motivates an organism to satisfy the need. So, when a drive originates, pumps energy in the individual, he works, he gets motivated, he gets energized to satisfy his needs. Then drive. It is a state of tension resulting from a need. When there is a need, then the drive starts pumping the individual to complete or accomplish that need. Reinforcement. Here reinforcement is the reduction of one's need, drive or drive stimuli. In Skinner, the reinforcement was shaping of the behavior is reinforced, is rewarded, is creating a positive impact. Here, reinforcement is the reduction of one's need. The need, as the need starts reducing, it means it has been reinforced. It is being reinforced. So, reinforcement is reduction of one's need, drive or drive stimuli. Positive reinforcement tends to strengthen a certain behavior through the satisfaction of basic biological needs or drives. Negative reinforcement, it is brought about by an originally neutral stimulus like money by associating with a primary reinforcing agent like food. So here the negative reinforcement is basically basically linking the neutral stimulus with certain primary reinforcer. Goal accommodity, a goal commodity which reduced drive. Need, drive, activity, goal, reduce drive. Now see this. There's a need, drive makes it, work, activity starts generating to what? To achieve the goal. And when we start achieving the goal, the reduction of the drive starts taking place. So Hull theory is basically pointing to one thing, that if you want to make the learners learn, we must create a need. And that need should be linked to certain goal. Once the need is created, the drive, the energy will make the learner to learn the skills, the behaviors, the knowledge, the content to reach the goal. And when the learner starts reaching the goal, his drive will start reducing. What are the educational implications of Hull's theory? He emphasizes on linking the learning to the needs of the children. So we should not impose learning on the children. We should create needs among the children. Children should have need to learn. The situation, the environment should create need among children to learn. We should not impose. Reinforcement and incentives acts as a catalytic agents for achieving the goals of a learning. Emphasis on the formation of good habits as a means of learning desirable behavior. So another thing which Hull says, one thing he says, need. Second thing he says, good habit. We should try to formulate good habits among the learners so that they are motivated to achieve desirable behaviors. Emphasis on the role of adequate practice, drill, and strengthening of reinforcement. So, learning must be followed. If we want to strengthen a behavior, it must be followed by adequate practice and drill. Emphasize the need for planning education according to individual differences of learners, keeping their respective ages in mind. Emphasize the need for proper rest and other measures to reduce the ill effects of fatigue in any act of learning. Next comes Bandura's social learning theory. It is given by Albert Bandura a prominent American social learning theorist. Interesting. Again, American psychologist. Focuses on the learning that occurs within a social context. Now, Bandura is telling that learning takes place in a social context. General principles of social learning: observational or vicarious learning, learning through indirect experiences rather than learning based on direct experiences. Imitation, modeling, the persons whose behavior one observes and often imitates are known as models, and observational learning is referred to as modeling. His learning theory is very interestingly explained through a BOBO doll experiment. In this experiment, children were shown a film. You have to listen very carefully, attentively. In this experiment, children were shown a film where adults interacted aggressively, hitting, punching, kicking, with an inflatable toy known as BOBO doll. After watching the film, the results showed that children who saw the adult rewarded for aggressive behavior. See, there were two groups made, right? There were two groups. In one group, what the children saw that the adult rewarded for aggressive behavior were more likely to behave aggressively when compared to other groups. You see, Bandura is trying to tell you that social context is very important in learning. When the children saw that people who bashed the Bobo doll, they were rewarded. So what they learned indirectly, what are they learning indirectly? That bashing leads to reward. So they learned this behavior. The second group, children who saw the adult punished for aggressive behavior were less likely to behave aggressively when compared to other groups. Again, indirect learning. The direct learning is not taking place. Children are not told. They are observing the model in front of them. Right? They are observing the model in front of them. That when the adults bash the Bobo, they were punished. So they learned we should not conduct this type of behavior. We should not show this type of behavior because it will lead to punishment. Now, the study demonstrates that children's future behaviors are strongly influenced by observing the behavior of adults or others, and these behaviors, the way they are rewarded or punished, they strengthen the observation of the children, and hence their behaviors are modified accordingly. So we do not blindly respond to environmental stimuli. See what Mandra is trying to focus on. That in learning, other theories of learning, they have said stimulus is important, response is important, reinforcement is important, need is important. But here Bandra is specifying that your environment around is also very, very important. Whatever is there in your environment, that shapes your behavior. So you do not blindly respond to the environmental stimuli. Rather, we pick and choose from many environmental options, basing our decisions on our own insights and past experiences. This we do through vicarious or observational learning by incorporating and imitating the behavior of those around us. Following steps are involved in social learning process. The first one is attending to and perceiving the behavior. We attend. Whenever we are in some social situation, we attend to the situation. We perceive the behaviors. We remember the behavior. Then we convert the memory into action. So whatever we remember, that kicks our thinking process, and thinking process leads to our action and reinforcement of the imitated behavior. And how that action was reinforced, it strengthens more to occur. Then comes the constructivist approach. The constructivist approach is epistemology or a theory used to explain how people know what they know, how they learn, basically. Constructivism is how people construct their own fund of knowledge, how they learn their own things. We must understand what happens among people which helps them to learn. Fundamentally, constructivism says that people construct their own understanding and knowledge of the world through experiencing things and reflecting on those experiences. Constructivism is a theory that asserts that learning is an activity and that is individual to the learner, meaning thereby every learner has got his own world. Every learner has got his own interaction with the world, he ascribes his own meaning to the world, and hence creates his own fund of knowledge. So learning is individualized. Constructivism stresses on learning is individualized. We cannot make a generalized learning. The psychological roots of constructivism began with two prominent psychologists. One is Jean Piaget. He is known for his cognitive development. And the second is Russian psychologist Lev Vygotsky. He gave social constructivism. According to constructivists, knowledge can be developed only due to the active participation. See, this is very important. Here he is saying active participation. The learner is not a passive learner, he is an active learner. He is directly interacting and he is learning through his direct experiences, through his direct observation. Only due to the active participation of the children, when a child is fully involved in learning, he explores himself beyond the limits. Jean Piaget's theory of learning: children acquire knowledge through their action and passes through stages of assimilation, meaning thereby children, they are doing number of actions and all the actions they are trying to assimilate, and then assimilate, collect, and then accommodation. Then they try to fit in with each other. The cubes in the cubes places, the rounds in the round places, the zigzag in the zigzag places. So they are trying to accommodate all those assimilations. Somewhat during that process, they must be omitting something, they must be adding something, they must be searching something. So they are accommodating. And equilibrium, meaning their mind, then after assimilating and accommodation, they try to bring a state of equilibrium. And when that state comes, the process of knowledge construction starts taking place. Now, in the figure, you can make out schemas is built. The boy has learnt a schema of cat. He might have learnt schema of so many animals. And then he must be accommodating that this is the animal which will come under the catty category. This animal will come under the catty category. He's trying to accommodate now. But this animal will not come under the catty category. So he's trying to accommodate. Then after omitting, taking out and correlating, he will bring a equilibrium. And then that equilibrium state will lead to the process of knowledge construction. And Piaget has given the stages of cognitive development. See, here Piaget is stressing on three key words: assimilation. The child assimilates through his observations, through his own experiences. He accommodates and he brings equilibrium. Piaget is telling about the stages of cognitive development, that how this assimilation, accommodation, equilibrium takes place through various years of development of a child. First, 0 to 2 years is known as sensory motor, when all the sense organs are working for the child and child is assimilating through various sense organs. Then pre-operational stage from 2 to 6 years, the infant explores the world through direct sensory motor contact, object permanence, and separation anxiety develop during this stage. Concrete operational 7 to 12 years, the child uses symbols, words, images to represent objects but does not reason logically. The child also has the ability to pretend. During this stage, the child is egocentric. See, during sensory motor, you find the child is exploring directly through his senses. During pre-operational, the child is using the words and the images to trying to represent objects. Again, he is assimilating. But while this time, when he's assimilating, he's accommodating those responses which he learned in his sensory motor stage, that is 0 to 2 years. Now, in 0 to 2 years, he explored through all his senses. And from 2 to 6 years, now he's correlating with the words and the images. Now what he's doing, he's assimilating also and now accommodating also the previous response. Then in the next concrete operational stage, that is from 7 to 12 years, here the child starts thinking logically. He starts understanding the concepts. Again, the assimilation and accommodation takes place. Then formal operational stage, that is 12 years and adult, he starts reasoning also. And now he starts thinking abstractly also in hypothetical terms. Up to 12 years, he was thinking in concrete terms. But now he started thinking hypothetically. No, the equilibrium stage now comes up, when he starts thinking abstractly also. So all these three stages starts working: assimilation, accommodation, and equilibration. And here he starts constructing his own knowledge base. Vygotsky, also known as father of social constructivism, he views the origin of knowledge construction as being the social intersection of people, interactions that involve sharing, comparing, debating among learners and mentors. Vygotsky asserted that knowledge can't be isolated from social and cultural context. The main concepts given in the theory are more knowledgeable others, scaffolding, zone of proximal development. More knowledgeable other. Now, in figure also you will find the learner is thinking, how do I do this? Because he is thinking the other person is more knowledgeable, he is having better understanding than me. And when this learner thinks that other person is having better understanding than me, how should I do it? Here comes the stage of scaffolding. Here is the requirement of scaffolding. Scaffolding is assistance which is given by the person who is having more knowledge to the child to cross this zone of proximal development. ZPD, zone of proximal development. What is this zone? The zone is that the child thinks that how can I do this? And the more knowledgeable person helps him to do that. So he's crossing that barrier, a sort of barrier he's crossing. This is known as zone of proximal development. We sometimes we don't get confused with it. What is this zone of proximal development? That the development is taken to its optimum level with the help of some mature person. So when the development is taken to optimum level with the help of mature person, this process itself is known as scaffolding. So scaffolding helps the learners complete the task which were not possible to complete individually. Scaffolding should be decreased gradually when the child starts to learn the concepts. So you must have observed children of very young age doing cycling, learning cycling. In cycle they have got two supports on the sides, right? First they go with those two sports. They learn to balance the cycle with those two sports. Then slowly one sport is taken out, and the child rides the cycle with only one sport. And slowly that sport is also taken out, and the child starts riding the cycle on his own. So that means a support is slowly withdrawn. So in a formal setup, in a formal classroom teaching learning, the support is slowly withdrawn so that child starts becoming independent learner. So the scaffolding is helpful in bringing the child to become an independent learner. It should be gradually decreased. For example, there's an example given here. Father taught the son as in how to play basketball. And slowly he started removing his role, his support to the son, who properly learned the basketball, playing basketball after few practices. Zone of proximal development, I already told you that it is actually distance between the actual development level and as determined by the independent problem solving at level of potential development as determined through his problem solving ability. And this zone of proximal development is crossed with the help of adults guidance or more experienced person's guidance. Then we come to humanistic approach. Humanistic approach theory was given by Abraham Maslow, widely regarded as one of the founders of humanist theory. Like Carl Rogers, Abraham Maslow believed that people were driven to fulfill their potential. His view was that we have certain needs that we need to fulfill. As we take care of one set of needs, a new set becomes salient. For example, you might forget your hunger if you're thirsty enough, and your thirst becomes irrelevant if you can't breathe. So you find what he's trying to tell, that it is a cycle. When one thing is becoming your need, it is driving you, but suddenly a stronger need comes, the other need subsides. So this is the humanistic approach, and it happens with humans. We all learners. It happens with all of us. That when something more important, pertinent comes up, the other weaker needs are they die themselves, or they get subdued. Much of Maslow's work was concerned with identifying different types of needs that people have and explaining why some people make more of their potential than others. In Maslow's hierarchy, the needs towards the bottom are most important and must be satisfied first. The needs are physiological needs. One must get food, water, oxygen. Safety needs. One wants freedom from threat and danger. Belonging needs. One wants to have love, friendship, sense of community. Esteem needs. Being respected by others and having status and recognition. Self-actualization needs. Fulfilling your human potential. See, learners, it's very interesting. Though this is the sequence of needs given by Maslow. First, physiological needs should be satisfied, then safety needs come up, then belonging needs come up, then esteem, being respected by others, they come up, then self-actualization. But if I talk to you about Swami Vivekananda ji, his self-actualization need was on the top. His other needs were on the bottom. So the need which is having prime priority in your life, that brings a drive in you to fulfill the need. So in Swamiji, the need to self-actualization was on the top. He forgot other needs. That's the beauty of this humanistic approach to learning. So it means in a classroom, we should try to build on the higher thinking order skills, on the higher learning needs of the children, so that they forget the petty needs. They forget the petty needs, the smaller needs, the lower level needs. This is the Maslow hierarchy of needs triangle. physiological, safety, protection, security, belongingness and love, esteem, and self-actualization. These are the self-actualizers. They are reality, meaning thereby who are the people who self-actualize. I mean, what type of features or characteristics they show when we find them as self-actualizers. They are reality centered. They don't have whimsical thinking. They don't have fantasy thinking. They are reality centered, problem centered. They had different perception of means and ends. They feel that the ends do not necessarily justify the means. The means could be ends themselves. The means could be the means could be a long journey, which is more important than ends. Had different ways of relating to others. First, they enjoy solitude and are comfortable being alone. They enjoy deeper personal relationships. That is, they look into themselves more. They have fewer friends. They are very closely knitted with those fewer friends and family members, and they have very shallow they rather than shallow relationships with many people. So they don't have much friends. The self-actualizers, they have very few friends and their family members, but they have got deep relations with them. They enjoy autonomy, a relative independence from physical and social needs. They are not much attached to physical and social needs. This is the characteristic of a self-actualizer, and you can find this in Swami Vivekananda ji. They have quality of acceptance of self and others, by which it is meant that these people would be more likely to take you as you are than to change you into what they thought you should be. So they take up as you are. They don't want to modify or change you. They are open, strongly motivated to change negative qualities in themselves, and they possess the qualities such as spontaneity and simplicity, which is required today. In today's virtual world, we need to be spontaneous and simple. We need to be ready to learn, unlearn, and de-learn. So, uh, with this, I end up my discussion on learning theories. Whenever you are trying to organize learning of your learners, you should look into the theories, which theory is best suited for the learning outcome you're expecting from your learners. Thank you very much.